The Intenders of the Highest Good, wrote, "You can at any moment transmute your karma. We, as human beings, tend to think that our destiny is set in stone, that we are stuck in an endless tape loop of experience after experience, leading to who knows where. We've been told that we set causes in motion long ago, and that we must live out the effects of those causes on our daily lives, whether we like it or not. There's only one problem with this line of thinking. It's a limitation, and we have come here at this time in history to rise above all limitations and to express ourselves fully. So, how do you transmute our causes? Well, for openers, we intend it. We are learning that once you intend something and it is in your highest and best good, it will make itself available to you. If, however, you are still believing in fear or suffering more than you believe in the highest good, you will be experiencing more of that. We limit ourselves immensely when we think that things cannot change. In truth, change is the one constant in the universe that we can rely on. There is nothing we cannot change, even our karma. So please say out loud the affirmation on the screen or the cover of your program with me. I am a woman of power. The power within me is the power of God and is my divine authority to create. I use it wisely for the highest good.
Thank you, Nancy. I was thinking about Deb and Robert when I chose that, because both of them are intenders of the Most High, right? Or the highest good, rather. All right, so, it's human nature. When we grow up in a culture that has certain tendencies and beliefs, it's human nature to buy into it. And even the rebellious form of it, those who rebel. I mean, there's a tendency just to buy into the trends and the culture and the beliefs of society. But we are being called to rise above that. This is really the time, and the call is far and wide. It's in communities like ours. It's on the internet. It's in some of the more advanced movies that are out there. There's this call to transcend all of that, what can be called collective unconsciousness, that belief structure, or what we call in this teaching race consciousness, which stands for like human race consciousness, the consciousness of the human race. And so today is really dedicated to that. And those two songs were just so perfect because it alluded to the way things have been, a tendency to buy into suffering as a way of life. And then the realization as we deepen ourselves into the teaching of the great spiritual masters, we know that change and transformation is our birthright. We are already whole, perfect, complete beings. We're learning that, and we're really becoming more of an embodiment of that over, as we move through life. What we're looking at here, though, is the realization that even those things that we thought we couldn't change are changeable. The old idea that, well, I have karma from a past life and I've got to live it out, or there could be any form of that shows up. No, it's not the truth. And we are spiritual beings. It's because of who we are. We are beings of light. We have the power, the potential, and the possibility to transform things in a moment's notice, moment's notice. So the topic for today is titled, Principle is Not Bound by Precedent. Principle is not bound by precedent, which means that spiritual principles that govern the universe, the spiritual principles or laws, know nothing about precedents, know nothing about what comes before. I was thinking about the movie, the spiritual cinema that we had that, Nancy was talking about by Michael Moore. And in it, he goes to other countries. He claims he's going to invade these countries and bring back their ideas. And he comes with an American flag and listens to the idea and puts his flag down. And so it's things like finding out that countries like Finland give their children shorter school days, no homework, and yet they outperform the students in the United States by far. I think they're like the number one on the planet or something, after they really changed their school system. Another idea that he brought back with him is that countries like in France and Italy that, they're into living life fully and being happy and having fun, that when they offer their employees longer vacations, and we're talking like 8 weeks of vacation in some of these countries a year, when they offer longer vacations, when they offer nice breaks and shorter work days, and I could go on and on and on, that their employees are just as productive, if not more productive, than the companies in this country that work their employees to the bone. And why? And we got an insight. They feel loved, they feel cared about, and they have enough time off so that they can recuperate and rejuvenate and not build up stress, and so they stay healthier. So these are precedents that we've bought into. Do you see what I'm talking about? That at any point in time can be changed, and they're beliefs that we have. You've got to work hard, long hours, blah, 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 in order to be productive, and we're finding, it's not true. It's the opposite. It's not what we thought it was. So I love the idea that principle is not bound by precedent. Spiritual principles, universal laws, when we apply them, and love and caring for one another is a spiritual law. When you think about it, when we love and care for one another, we all thrive. So when we put those principles into effect, the results are really positive. And you might be saying, well, yeah, that makes sense. But notice, though, how we've bought into the opposite. Work hard, work long, keep working, and then maybe someday I'll have time to take off and be happy, instead of having happiness be just a part of everyday life. So we are here to transcend precedents that don't serve us. And each one of you know in your own life what those are. And to move into the realm of all things are possible. I want to share a story with you from a book by Jack Addington that I was called to pick up and take off the shelf. And I shared some things with the practitioner intern class this last week. He has a book that he wrote, and Jack Addington, by the way, was a Science of Mind minister and author from the San Diego area. He wrote a book called The Secret of Healing, and he states emphatically that there is no such thing as an incurable disease. Now, we're beginning to know this more and more medically, but what he's talking about is through the intervention of spiritual mind treatment. He has documented thousands of cases of instantaneous healings from spiritual mind treatment. And it doesn't mean that we don't do the other things. I mean, you have to, follow what you're called to do. But I'm talking about the power of prayer, spiritual mind treatment, which is prayer. He said he personally documented many such blessings of simply knowing the truth. And that's what spiritual mind treatment focuses on, is knowing the higher truth. So here's a story about a woman by the name of Millie Whitmarsh who gave him permission to print her story. She came to Jack for spiritual mind treatment, and she'd been diagnosed with cancer of the lymph glands. And under each of her ears she had running sores. And she was told she had terminal cancer, that she only had a little time to live. So she went to Jack had a session with him, and then during the session she was guided to take a trailer, go out into the desert. This is San Diego, the desert. Go out into the desert and to heal all of her little hates. She called them her little hates. I hate this, I hate that. You know what I'm talking about, the things we complain about. So she had a whole series of them that she became aware of, and one of them was being alone. She did not like being alone. So the first thing she did was she was totally alone in this trailer in the desert, and day after day immersed herself in meditation and prayer. So day after day, she's having this communion with the divine. And one day, while meditating, she felt a presence like over her ear area. She could feel it. And she knew in her heart of hearts that it was Jesus. Jesus, the great master teacher and healer. And when she went to look at herself in the mirror, there was no trace of anything left. And there had been open wounds, open sores. So she went back to Jack, had him look at her neck, and he said it was as smooth as a child's skin. It was that quick and that dramatic. Now, I don't know how many of you have witnessed or heard of these dramatic kinds of healings, but I've been involved in this teaching a long time, and I've witnessed many, many dramatic healings from this teaching. And he goes on and on. I mean, I could tell you, I'm just really in awe. I kept reading through the different stories that he shared, and they're all different kinds of things. And we know that this doesn't apply just to physical healing, but it applies to all aspects of our lives. And so one of the things that Jack said that he noticed about people who did have healings is that, number one, they had a desire to heal. And in the front of his book, what I thought was so fascinating was that he gave the reasons why people sometimes don't heal. And he talked about secondary gains. Any of you here have heard of secondary gains? Yeah. That when people have secondary gains from being sick or being hurt, that they will resist receiving a healing. And so he talked about those, and they were things like having fame, that nobody can heal me, like it's a thing of fame. Or it can be something like, I deserve this pain, somebody who feels that they deserve it. Or it could be that this gets me a lot of attention, so I'm going to keep this going because I get a lot of attention from it. And not that somebody's doing it consciously, it can be very unconscious. But until when we become aware of our patterns, then we can transcend them and we can move into that state of desiring to heal. So that's the first part. The second thing that he mentioned is that it's important that we believe in a higher power of some kind. And I'm going to deal with that one, in the rest of the message. But that people have a belief in a higher power and in the possibility of healing. And then the last one was to accept it, to accept the healing. So now I want to turn from Jack Addington to Ernest Holmes and his book called Living the Science of Mind. The chapter that I've been drawing from today, the principle is not bound by precedent, is in that book, except it's called Principle and Precedent, because he's trying to differentiate between the two. And he has 4 ways to break through that precedent that somehow we can't be healed. 4 ways to break through that. So that's what I want to share with you today, so that we can become the spiritual masters that we are meant to be here, and to truly transmute and transcend those things that we thought could not be healed. So the first one is, start with a firm conviction that we are dealing with a power which is not bound, not limited. It is the all power. Christian Larson, in his book, The Pathway of Roses, wrote, "All the laws and forces in existence spring originally from this power. It is therefore the center and source of all that lives and moves, and this power is God." And then Wayne Dyer, in his book, There's a Spiritual Solution to Every Problem, talked about his experience of moving from being an agnostic who seriously questioned the existence of God, and the turning point for him. And the turning point for him was when somebody told him a story of, imagine a junkyard, and it has all different kinds of junk wire and nuts and bolts, and it has glass, and it has foam, and bits of steel, and just, old tires. And then a wind comes along and whirls around, and in a few seconds there's a jumbo jet, a 747 jumbo jet. How likely is that to happen? Not very likely. And his point is, he realized that there must be some intelligent presence, consciousness, that underlies the order, the design of things like human bodies. How could the intricacy of the human body be possible if there weren't a power and an intelligence that gave rise to all of this? And the ability of each one of us to create and invent things and change our minds and change our thinking and change our lives. How could that be possible unless there was some all power, some one source that bound us all together, and that presence be love and all good, and that we be given the freedom to experiment with it and maybe take some wrong turns here and there that, although there really are no wrong turns, but it can feel that way, to adopt beliefs maybe that don't serve us. Given that freedom. So there is this all power. So that's the first premise to begin with. The second one is that we assure ourselves that we have access to this power. So if that presence and that power is all that there is, then that power is not external to us. It dwells in, through, and as our very own being. It's not something different from us. We are of that source. We're made in His likeness and image. And we discover that the presence of God is then therefore immediate and personal, and a possibility latent within the self, ready to be called upon and used. So there's the first two. Know that we're dealing with the all-power, one presence, knowing that we have access to that presence. And the third one is to identify with the all-power. So Ernest says, our next step is to identify the self with this power. I am that which thou art that which I am. We are one with this power. We are in it, we are some part of it. So let's go back to 1893, the very first Parliament of World's Religions that took place in Chicago. And this Hindu mystic by the name of Vivekananda, anybody heard of Swami Vivekananda, came over from India, and he spoke before the Parliament. And what he shared was earth-shattering for a lot of the people that attended the convention, because they're from all different religions. And what he did is he told the story of a lion that was raised by sheep. And so this particular lion grew up thinking he was a sheep. He baaed like a sheep. And then one day some lions came through the camp, and of course all the the sheep started running away, and one lion grabbed him and said, "You're not a sheep, you're a lion." And he didn't believe him. So he took him to the closest pool, had him look at his own reflection, and sure enough, he realized he was a lion. So then listen to what Vivekananda said to all the people at this. Keep in mind, this is 1893. So he said, "And you, my friends, are all lions. You are pure, infinite, and perfect souls. He for whom you have been weeping and praying in churches and temples is your own self," with a capital S, the divine self, which is one with the all self, the all presence. Can you imagine the response? But he was really trying to get his point across. I am so clear of who we are in truth. Who we are in truth. So I'd like you to repeat after me. The power within me is the power of God.
The power within me is the power of God.
And this power, is my divine authority, to create. So we are given the authority to create by the inner divine presence itself. Identify with the all power. That's what we just covered. So the next one is we break the trance of limitation by using the all power. We use it. So what good is it to have the combination to a lock if we don't use it? Let's say it's a lock to the treasure of all possibility and all potentiality, right? So this is, I believe that Emmett Fox said it so well and so beautifully, made it so simple and easy. He called it the golden key. He said it's this simple. You turn away from the problem and you start thinking about God. You turn away from the problem and you start thinking about God. So you guys say it.
Turn away from the problem and start thinking about God.
Yes. So you'd start thinking about the attributes of God, what God is. This is what we do in spiritual mind treatment, right? All of those who, yeah. You begin to start thinking about God and your union with that presence. That alone raises your vibrational frequency enough to get your attention off the problem and to begin to start creating something, and not only creating something new, but allowing all of the visions and desires that you've had before to have a chance to come through and into your life. So to me, that is just so simple. I was so happy to be reminded of that because I heard about it years ago, but it's such a simple thing to remember. In the teachings of Abraham Hicks, they call it pivoting. Anybody read Abraham Hicks? I know Eric does. So they call it pivoting, where so you're focused on your problem, you pivot away from it, and you start focusing on the truth. It's simply turning your mind. And if you have to physically get up and turn yourself to do it, whatever it takes, it's to break that patterning of focusing on what we don't want, the problem. Because what happens when we focus on the problem? You get more of it. It's a pattern that continues on and on. Okay, so I'd like you just to take a moment, and Deb is going to play some music for you. And if you have paper and pencil, you can certainly write something down. But I'm going to have you turn within, and in this moment, think of a problem or a challenge that you've had that you thought was unchangeable. And in this moment, I would like you to turn away and just practice this. Practice thinking about the divine, all of the aspects about the divine that you can think of. We're just going to give you a few moments to do that. invite you to take a breath and say, and so it is. And now, just to get everybody back into the place of activity, let's have everybody stand and join me in this. And we're going to use a power pose that we've done before. We know that when we put our arms up, we put our shoulders down, and we hold our heads high, that we allow ourselves to embody the magnificence and the power of who we are. So let's just say together, and it's, I'm a powerful man or woman, okay? I am a powerful woman. I am the very divine presence itself individualized.
I am the very divine presence that's self-individualized.
I am here to transcend all that has come before.
I am here to transcend all that has come before.
I am successful.
I am successful.
I do succeed.
I do succeed.
For I'm full of the power of success.
For I'm full of the power of success.
So let's do a vibrant yes! And so it is! Woo! Give yourself a hand.